Hey everyone, I'm back once again with a book review. This time I'm reviewing Assassin by Shaun Hutson, originally published in 1988. And I guess I'll just show off this book in all its glory. Look at that. I like this cover a lot. It's not my favorite, I guess, cover of all time, but still pretty cool. Like, look at the detail in that writing hand, and it's like how it's holding the revolver. But you know me, I'm a sucker for these type of old, horror novel covers. Okay, so this review is gonna be a little bit different than my other ones, like my Schoolhouse and Console review, because I'm gonna refrain from spoilers due to the fact that unlike those books, this one you can still get quite easily. You can find like new and used copies on eBay and Amazon for a fair price, and you can also buy it on Kindle. So I'll just read the synopsis on the back of the book, then I'll say a bit about Shaun Hutson, and then I'll say my thoughts about the book. And there you go. London was in the grip of its bloodiest bout of gang warfare for 2 years. Shootings in the street, kidnapping, and car chases. Until now, Frank Harrison had ruled gangland, but it looked as if that reign was going to end in blood. Someone was out to destroy him and his men, to wipe out everyone associated with him. But who? Harrison had to know, and into this world of violence, corruption, madness, and death came the assassin, a force more powerful than vengeance, more lethal than a lorry full of high-velocity weapons, and more terrifying than any nightmare. So yeah, that's the synopsis. Now I'll guess a good tiny bit of detail about Shaun Hutson. I will try to get quick because I think I've talked about him before quite a bit in my other novels. Yeah, people describe them as a British Richard Lehman because he makes a lot of splatterpunk novels, and how you say, well, basically because like much like Richard Lehman, it's like his books are filled with like blood, guts, sex, and all these other like crazy shit like that. And, like you get like, oh, like this, because especially in this book, there's a lot of like death. You get shootings, car chases, and well, like I said, quite, and I guess like the sex scenes in this one are quite detailed, So yeah, that you can see why people compare him to Richard Lehman. So let's see. Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Now I was about to say also just much like Lehman, his novels they're pretty easy on the mind. You can read them quite. Yeah, you read them they're definitely not hard. They're not hard reads. They don't strain the mind. And this one's only like 320 pages. So again, not that long of a book, and it's even quicker with the fact that, like I said, it's not that hard of a read. I guess now I'll say like a bit about this book. Like obviously it talked about Harrison. He's the like Frank Harrison. He's the I guess the leader of the criminal world of London. And there's been like some cases of people who've been like shooting up his businesses and killing his men because it's got like he owns a bunch of businesses like he has restaurants where if you go to the top floor they do illegal gambling. He owns like a bunch of strip clubs, and he's also, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, those strip clubs they also are fronts for prostitution. And they said he also pays cops to look the other way and all this other stuff. But I guess with that being said, I'll say this about this book: despite like it being like a splatterpunk novel, it's quite well written and structured, much like Shaun Hutson's other novels. I guess I'll read this one thing. This is like right at the beginning, so it's not gonna spoil anything. Okay, basically at one point in the book, there's this housing complex called Langley Towers that's supposed to house a bunch of like poor people. It's getting demolished because basically they said that the place was built. Like they cut corners, they rushed it, so when it opened to house a bunch of people in this like poor part of London, they just said like very soon after there were a bunch of complaints about the condition of the place. Like they just like cracks in the walls, things breaking, and all these other things. And then after a case, basically after a case like a stairwell, came apart and 5 people got killed. The place was forced to be shut down and it's getting demolished. I'm gonna read a bit about it being demolished and just give you an idea. Like, oh, this novel, it's it's like how it's written. I mean, not like the whole book is written this way, but like some parts like this, but other parts are just more like straightforward about the shootings and stuff like that. It looked like a battlefield. Thick clouds of dust and smoke rolled like banks of noxious fog across a landscape of devastation. The thunderous roar of collapsing buildings was punctuated occasionally by the sound of explosions and the ever present rattling of caterpillar tracks. I believe that's a type of vehicle, by the way. Okay. But this was no war, it was organized destruction, not the hectic random obliteration which comes with conflict, but a carefully contrived scheme plotted and planned by experts and now executed not by an army of uniformed men, but of civilians. And then they go into detail about how the place is being, like the wrecking balls are destroying stuff. There's like explosions happening, not bringing down the building. So like I said, yeah, it's written quite well. So that's kind of cool. But let's see what else was that. Oh yeah, I guess one thing I'll get into is let's talk about the whole the housing complex and like those poor people. The one thing about this novel too, I was mentioning about the Frank Harrison character. There's also a group of youths, they're all like in the early to mid 20s, that sort of thing. They're basically kidnapping, torturing, and killing rich people because they had this whole thing like, oh well, this is a war against the rich, and they talk about how they're gonna kill these parasites because well, they talk about how the being exploited, like the poor being exploited and abused and all these other things. And I want to bring that up a bit because it's kind of, at least while I was reading it, I'm just kind of like, so it reminds me of what I heard about like how the UK was in the 80s, especially London. Because I heard it was like during the like when Margaret Thatcher was when she was Prime Minister of the UK. There was a lot of like I guess tensions and stuff like that between like rich and poor people and that sort of thing. But I can't verify that. I'm not too knowledgeable about the thing, the whole the subject because I wasn't really around. I mean, yeah, I wasn't born in the 80s, and also I'd never been to the UK, so I'm not gonna say too much about that. I just couldn't help but kind of think that when I was reading this. It's like, oh, it kind of reminds me of I heard how certain things were in the UK at the time. But like I said, I'm gonna like frame spoilers, so I guess I'll be about the characters because there's like you can probably assume from the cover that there's something like supernatural going on, as well as the fact what I said about when I read the synopsis, what's happening. But again, I'm gonna frame spoilers, but let's see what else. Okay, so now I guess now I'll just get into why my thoughts in the book. Okay, so basically really fun to read. Has a lot of action, a lot of death, and also some really gross parts. Like actually, this book, I'm gonna give it credit for something. Is I think it actually has there's like two kills in it that are incredibly gross, but I think one of them might be the grossest kill that I've ever read in a book. Maybe not the goriest, I would say, but definitely the grossest. Like it's very like, ooh, that's just really gross. If you read this book, you may know what I'm talking about. It involves a character named Nikki. I believe that's her name. So, but yeah, like I said, it's a really fun novel if you're into the splatterpunk stuff. So I would say highly recommended. And also one thing about it too, it's like, it's very atmospheric too. Like when they describe how like certain parts of London are and all these other things, and like how this whole like, like this world of criminals work. So really cool. But one thing, this isn't a negative, but I guess I will give a bit of a disclaimer. This book has quite a bit of like British slang, which is not a problem for me because I feel like most people know these ones, but a lot of the British slangs isn't too hard to follow. Let's say there's like ones that everyone knows like wanker, trolley, lorry, like a semi truck, and what else? I mean, there's one like telly. So it's like a lot of those ones are easier to follow. But there's actually a few British words I didn't really know what they meant, but I can still kind of assume what they meant due to the context of the conversation. Like one of them was grass. Like someone was kind of like, oh, at one point Harrison, he's getting angry. He's accusing someone of being like a traitor, and he's like saying stuff like, oh, one of you guys are grass, and he's like he's like, I'm gonna figure out which one it is. Which I didn't really know. I mean, I kind of, like I said, I assumed what it kind of meant, but I didn't quite, because I never heard that word before. But yeah, it basically means like traitor or something like that in some British slang, like kind of like a snake in the grass, that sort of thing. So again, that's not really negative, but it's like there's quite a bit of British slang, so maybe some people might be, not too familiar with some of those words, and maybe like be like, huh, that's a thing. But anyways, yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. This is a quicker review, and like I said, yeah, it's definitely way less detailed than my other ones, but still, I would just say, yeah, if what I just described, and you like splatterpunk or just a fan of like Layman or I guess Shaun Hutson's other novels, you should just really get this. So I guess that's it. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.